customer interface improvements, the ability to provide you, our customers, with that data so that you can see it in our customer portal or in a GBPC smart app that gives you hour by hour usage into your home. Information at your fingertips, giving you, the customer, the ability to see that information. System integration, greater reliability, gives us the ability to see when homes are out, when a transformer is blown, when a switch is open, so that you may not have to pick up the phone, or when you do pick up the phone, we already know, hey, customer at Fortune Point, number whatever lane is out, and there are about 4 other customers on the side of them that are out. So we have a greater response, able to roll a truck a lot quicker. And the true value proposition is increased reliability, better customer service, and in the future we have the ability to implement time of use. Time of use, whereas we create specific rates within the utility that gives you advantages on using your energy at specific times of the day. Grand Bahama peaks at the current moment around 6:30, 7 o'clock because it's daylight saving is gone. So at that peak, you have the ability to say, I will not use the most of my energy during peak time, but I'll wait till later on in the night where GBPC is offering me a better rate to turn on my AC. Or instead of turning on the stove the minute I get home to start cooking, I'll be able to defer my cooking until later on in the evening where I get a better rate for the energy that I'm using. What are the other benefits of advanced meter infrastructure? Prepaid metering. AMI is the basis of prepaid metering. So giving our customers the ability to top up their meter. Okay, I only have $100 this week. I don't want to be bogged down with a monthly bill where I get a surprise. Okay, we can install prepaid for you. So you can top up your meter just as if you top up your phone. In addition to that, it also gives us the ability for those customers who may have an outstanding bill with the power company, and you say, hey, my bill may be a bit high, it's about $600, $700, $300, but I still want power. So we can say, you know what, we can give you prepaid and also give you the ability that when you top up your meter, we take a percentage of that to put on your bill. So allowing our customers greater flexibility, customer control, a web portal, and it also gives us a better opportunity to lessen tampering and loss reduction. Everyone pays for tampering. So we want to be able to put this information, put this technology in the fingertips of our customers. And it also gives us the ability to do remote connects, remote disconnects. What are we looking at when we talk about AMI and beyond? So it's home demand operations. Set points based upon load adjustments, given the ability to add solar onto your home that allows us to be able to say, what does our energy future look like? What do we need to invest in? What is the growth in Grand Bahama? What is the growth in Freeport? And we are able to tell that based upon the daily information that we will now be collecting to better serve you, our customers. We talk about renewable energy, generation, transformation, minimum possible penetration of renewables, electric vehicles and storage, being able to understand how EVs now tie into the grid, the impact it has on our utility grid, along with solar or any other renewable energy for that matter. So before I leave in closing, I just want to talk a little bit about our utility of the future. So we would all be familiar with the utility of yesterday. You have a single direction power. We have single direction price structure. The utility sets the price. That's the price. You pay it. You're good. When you look at the utility of today, we're now looking at a two-way power consumption, a two-way power flow. We have power being generated by customers that are feeding back onto the grid, that is feeding the utility, the customers around them, and the ability, customers want control. They want to control their generation. They want to control how much solar they want to put on their rooftop, how much battery storage they want to employ, how much They want better response, they want better control. And we also see in the utility of today, there's aging infrastructure. And it almost puts us in a strategic position in terms to say, we have aging infrastructure in our steam turbines, in our diesel turbines. What are we going to invest in? How are we going to invest in it? Are we going to invest in wind technology? Are we going to invest in solar technology with a bit of battery storage in between? And GBPC is doing all of these things to serve you, our customers, better. And moving forward to the utility of the future, you see in this picture, basically the steam turbines disappear. Your diesel generators disappear. You have an internet of energy where homes are supplying homes are supplying the grid, where the renewable energy cost is expected to drop at such a rate where it will be a little bit more affordable. It's not happening now, but we anticipate this happening in the future, and we want to get ahead of the curve to ensure that we make sure that you, our customers, are ready for this. Customers would want negotiated controls, internet energy, utility as an energy platform, multi-way power flow, flowing from homes to the grid, from homes to homes, from homes to businesses. So, and it's empowering you, our customers, to make better choices on your energy as well as your usage. Thank you very much.
That's pretty high energy, Delano. Well done. I felt the power. You a preacher by any chance? Oh, sorry. So thank you for that. And as you can see, pretty exciting times ahead. You know, and what we shouldn't lose sight of is the whole point of this is for you, the customer. It's not just to be cool. It's not just to be better than Barbados. It's about keeping a lid on power costs. It's about reducing wastage. It's about balancing supply and demand so we don't have to overbuild. It's about optimizing the assets that we've invested in and you're all currently paying for, and trying to drive those costs down so we can drive down the cost of energy. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of the Tesla play, of the work we're doing with ABB, of the work we're doing with Landis & Gyr and Delano and his team. That's why we're doing it. I'm going to close off, hopefully. I think I still have some time. I think we did quite well. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to talk briefly about electric vehicles, and there's a quick video with some sound. So I think we're all getting fed up with that royalty-free music that we're all using for the same video. We should invest in some more music, I think. So that was a little view, and that's actually, I think, our most watched clip on Facebook in the terms of video. That video has been viewed over 15,000 times, so it's certainly creating some interest. And hopefully you've seen our small fleet of Nissan Leafs around the island, which was joined today or last night by the Tesla Model 3, and we're looking forward to sharing that with the community and you know, exposing the community to what electric vehicles can be. So I'm going to do just a very brief sort of talk on the evolution of the EV, and really my point here, this is a slide that Mitsubishi I think made. To me, EVs actually haven't evolved that much since 1966, which was when England last won the World Cup. Really not much has happened since then. You know, there's been some efforts. I did my university degree in '85, I think. I did a project on electric vehicles, which concluded, and you'll see some, that they're good for short-range applications, such as milk trucks, if you work in the UK, milk floats, if you remember them, and airport vehicles. And really up until, I think, 2012, 2013, when the Nissan Leaf truly hit the streets with a reasonable range, things started to move. And I think things really started to move in the last 3 years with Tesla, who really moved the bar in terms of range, which is the biggest obstacle certainly in North America and Europe. Range is not an obstacle here. I don't know if anyone's noticed, Grand Bahama is not that big. Freeport is not that big. And my average mileage in a day is probably less than 40 kilometers. So having an electric vehicle that can do 200 is perfectly fine. So, you know, when you say EVs to people, this is probably the sort of things they're thinking about. Golf carts. This is the pushback tugs you have at the airport. Forklift trucks, short range, high torque. This is what electric vehicles used to be. The milk float in the UK. This is what electric vehicles are today. The Nissan Leaf. We have a Nissan Leaf vehicle and a Nissan Leaf van in our fleet. We currently, I think in the last couple of days, received a couple more, and we've got a couple more arriving. The reason we're doing this, again, is not to be cool. The reason we're doing this is not because they're great vehicles to drive. The reason we're doing it is that we're saving 50 to 60% on our running costs of these vehicles. And thankfully, due to the progressive nature of this government, we've reduced the duties of electric vehicles significantly to 10%. They have actually closed the gap to internal combustion vehicles. So why wouldn't you? If you're going to save 50 to 60% in your running costs, and the government has removed the duties so that they're almost the same price as an internal combustion engine, it's taking the thinking away, folks. Chevy Bolt is another vehicle, another affordable vehicle, not so great in range, but very accessible, very affordable. And the Tesla model range. So the S and the X are the luxury vehicles, and I believe there's a couple of X's on the island that are available for hire and for tours. We've recently brought in a Model 3, which is the more affordable version, and there's even more affordable versions being produced now, probably in the $36,000 US range. So they're getting there, and again, with the low duty, it's starting to make a lot of sense. The range on that Tesla Model 3 outside is 500 kilometers, about 300 miles. So think how many times around Freeport that takes you before you have to think about charging. So what I'm saying is EVs have moved along somewhat since the golf cart. They have a lot of advantages. Cost for me is the primary advantage, but of course reduced dependency on imported oil. So these are gas-free. These are not hybrids. This is my personal view, not the view of the company particularly. My personal view is we need to skip the hybrid stage. Hybrids are a huge level of complexity. You have a small gasoline engine and you have a small battery. You have the worst of both worlds. You have a lot of power electronics in between. It increases your mileage increases a bit. Why not make the switch to full electric, and especially on a small island? Again, on the mainland, continental US, it might make a little more sense. On an island such as this or any of the other Bahama Islands, it makes a lot less sense. Low maintenance cost, as I mentioned, the 60% is both fuel and maintenance, very minimal maintenance costs because of lack of moving parts, lack of oil, lack of filters, lack of fluids, just a general reduction, massive reduction in the amount of moving parts. Of course, they're pollutant and noise-free, which will be interesting, as the gentleman talked about this morning. When we have a whole nation of electric vehicles, it will be eerily quiet, I think. Low operation costs and low import duties. So thank you, Prime Minister. I'd like to introduce the concept of vehicle to grid. This is not quite commercial yet. We're in discussions with Nissan in Japan on this, who've been working on this for a couple of years. The charging equipment is a little expensive for the home, but basically what this does is allow your car to be part of our grid network. So what it allows you to do is to power your home, should there be an outage, not that we have many outages, but if there is one, because a car has hit a pole on Saturday night, for example, your car will be able to power your house. Your car would also be able to, if we're in a bit of a squeeze during a peak and we're short of generation for some reason, we could pay you for some of the juice in your car and use that to power some of the local community. Again, I think this is probably 2 or 3 years away yet, but we are actively working on it. I probably just communicated all the vehicle to grid advantages there. But really the second bottom bullet, again, being a Scotsman, the revenue opportunity, being able to monetize the value of your car when it's sitting in your driveway doing nothing. And you know, as we move towards autonomous vehicles, the idea of being able to drive your car to work, leave it there, and have it go off by itself and be an Uber all day and earn its keep before coming back to take you home at night is really not that far away, is it, Stephen? Thank you. So this is the GBPC fleet. We're up to, we will be, by the end of this month, be up to 7 or 8 vehicles. And again, looking forward to enjoying the savings and passing them on to our customers. A few words, I've got 2 more subjects. A little bit about Solar Sunrise, and I want to introduce the concept of the Tech Hub Development Energy Rates, which is very exciting, so I need to leave some time for that. But the Solar Sunrise project has been mentioned a couple of times. And this is a video, I think, without sound, so I'm going to provide commentary. This is an aerial view of the West Sunrise plant and our existing Peel Street plant, which is now one site. And this is the artist's impression of the solar that we're going to start building just after Christmas. And if you have a look at those white boxes there, again, a bit of a graphic representation, but that's the battery storage project that Nathan Adams from ABB talked about earlier. So that will be integrated with the solar plant on a bunch of barren wasteland we have sitting around, formerly known as a Greco site. I don't know if people remember when we had to ship in some temporary generation back in the day. So that's our Solar Sunrise project. It's already started. We're in conversations with contractors. We want to engage more local contractors. We want to keep the local content as high as possible in this project, so we will be engaging local contractors, electricians, etc., to do the work. Proposed size on the AC side is about 3.5 megawatts over 15 acres, about $5 million investment from us, which is really North American prices. We're not getting gouged because we happen to live in beautiful Grand Bahama. And an annual output of about 5,600 megawatt hours a year, which probably won't mean too much to you, but what might mean something to you is the energy cost has been forecast to be less than 9 cents a kilowatt hour. That's meaningful. So we look forward, we'll be sharing more information on that project as it matures. We'll be clearing the ground shortly, and you'll see some real action around the turn of the year on that one. You can't read this. That's not deliberate, but we have, I believe, published some brochures on this that you'll be able to pick up at our stand. But what we're introducing here is a technology hub development rate. So what we're all here doing over the last few days and the next few days and the last year, in fact, is trying to attract business here and make it attractive for businesses here to come here and live, work, and invest in Grand Bahama. We at the utility know that we need to help with that. We think we're helping with that by providing the cheapest electricity in the Bahamas, and some would say the most reliable electricity in the Bahamas. But we need to do more than that. So we've introduced a development rate for new businesses coming to the island of a certain size, which will be granted a discount during their startup phase. So during the first 5 years of operation, there'll be a 25% discount on their base rate electricity prices in the first year, 20% second, 15, 10, and 5, and so on. And that should allow them to get a foothold on our island and get going whilst we develop renewable energy options to keep those prices lower. It'll also be available to our existing and very successful industrials in the island who wish to expand and grow their business. So I think we know that Pharmachem are busy expanding out the back. We're looking forward to welcoming another plant onto the grid. We need to be able to encourage more of that to happen, and if we're delivering more net load to our grid, we'll be able to accommodate that very healthy discount for you. What we're also doing is, if you're starting up a new business here or expanding a business here and bringing net new people here, employees, over a certain number, what we'll do is install free of charge electric vehicle charging points at your place of business. Again, to try and accelerate this transition. And again, if you're a business of a certain size, and all this detail is in the brochure, I can't communicate it all here. If you're a business of a certain size, we'd like to engage with you on installing storage, battery storage as a backup to your business, rather than you installing a diesel generator if you feel the need, because if you feel the need the power is unreliable, which I'm sure you don't, but if you feel the need for backup power, then perhaps battery backup power is a better way to go. And you can partner with the utility where we share the cost of that, because that battery embedded in your business is as valuable to us as it is to you, so we share the cost. Sound like a good idea? Okay, good. So that's what we're going to do. So in closing, that's really the story we have today. I hope you appreciate that we really have captured the attention of big multinational companies doing extremely important cutting-edge work. In fact, some of this work, the work that Nathan is doing is very cutting edge and dealing with their very complex frequency control problem, and really is a model for not just the rest of the Bahamas, but the rest of the world. So thank you. The gentleman has a question. Are we doing the whole question thing? Have we got time? I could come and see you after. I'll come and see you after, sir, I think. Yeah. Thank you.
Let's thank Grand Bahama Power and Light, Mr. David McGregor, for that excellent presentation. And I'm certain that you now have an even better appreciation for the importance of the development of ICTs, because you understand that when we talk about ICT, we're really talking about everything there is about living and improving the quality of life, and how ICT can play a significant role in moving us forward. And so thank you very much, Mr. David McGregor and your team, for that presentation, the Internet of Things playing out right before our very eyes. Are you receiving the information and feel that you're ready to move into the future? Come on, I know we just had lunch, and Mr. McGregor, we applaud you for coming up after lunch. That's usually a difficult period to speak in, but are you receiving the information and feeling that you're really moving into the future? Because that's what we want you to think, and that's where we want your headspace to be. And keynote speaker this afternoon is coming from Cybernetica, and we have a presentation on e-government, digitization reform, the Estonian model, and I know that this presentation is going to be not just entertaining, but very valuable and informative, and I invite now Rio Kurg, the Vice President of Product for Cybernetica. Let's welcome him as he comes.
Wow. This is the microphone, right? Okay. It seems that whoever did put up the screen, they were so nice and presenting Cybernetica CEO there. Oliver is a really nice guy. But as you see, I look a bit differently. So anyway, please, if anyone takes a picture of me on the stage and Oliver next to me, then please share it. Thank you, thank you. And anyway, it's a great honor to be here for me and Oliver and another Oliver. And can we start? Yeah, right. Does it? Can I take this microphone? Yeah, okay? Yeah, okay. Now it's better. Maybe we can start with the presentation now. What should I do to make it work? Nice. I will stand here so you can have a better picture with me, with my boss, on the stage, together. But now the presentation, is it coming or not? I can start whatever. I hope that presentation will start soon. Let me first introduce myself. I am actually, yes, Riho Kurg. That's how it's spelled in Estonian. and I'm coming from the company called Cybernetica. And the first slide that doesn't still... No, almost lost the microphone as well. Great start. So Cybernetica is an Estonian ICT company. We have history of 21 years doing whatever is necessary to make world more secure and safe. It was our roots go back to the 60s when there was established Institute of Cybernetics. And these scientific roots are what make our company so special, at least for me, because I have my deepest feelings against the scientists and all those PhDs working for us, either having PhDs in mathematics or cryptographics, or some of them do both. So, will there...
Guys, for that, we're having some technical difficulties, and as we get that presentation up and running, we'll now invite our host, the Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister here in Grand Bahama, the Honorable Senator, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, to come up and make his presentation while we get this very important presentation right up and running for you. Please welcome Minister Thompson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mavis. And ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize for that small technical difficulty, but we believe that it was important enough to pause to get Cybernetica's presentation correct, because we really want the country to see what Cybernetica and what Estonia is doing with respect to e-government. And so we want to ensure that he gets all of his information and that you are able to take full advantage of that information. I also, and maybe it may be best that I proceed before him because we are also in the Bahamas advancing our e-government platforms, and we are also advancing that e-government discussion. And so we want to ensure that we get a good picture, and that Estonia also, you will see how that plays with respect to what we want to do. Today we have continued on our exciting journey, making Grand Bahama a tech hub of the Bahamas. But one of the things that we must do is make government work for you. And what we found was that if we made government work for you, and if we made it easy for people to do business, then it would attract business. And so that's one of the things that this government has been mandated to do, is to make it easier for us to do business. So we want to talk about e-Bahamas. 242, making the government work for you. Today, the direction of the world is moving in information and communication technology. The world, as we have heard, has become dependent upon technology, which is literally developing in the blink of an eye. And the sale of sun, sand, and sea is no longer going to be sufficient for us and for economic development. We are competing globally, and everybody has sun, sand, and sea. And so we are no longer going to be able to just utilize sun, sand, and sea when it comes to being globally competitive. The Bahamas is now 118th out of 197 countries on the World's Bank Index for Ease of Doing Business. We are also 72 in the United Nations E-Government Development Index. Unfortunately, this is nothing for us to celebrate. But the good news is that when you are down, the only way to look is up. So I'm delighted that coming after me will be Cybernetica, who we were fortunate enough to visit when it comes to Estonia. And we just returned from a workshop in Estonia and looking at the e-government platforms in Estonia. In less than 25 years, Estonia has moved from a country that was occupied by Russia and which was really down low, and it has moved now in less than 25 years to being number 12 in the world for the ease of doing business. They are now on the cutting edge when it comes to e-government platforms. And they did it in a relatively short period of time. So on behalf of the government, I want to publicly thank the IDB and the Estonian government for this educational opportunity that we had, and which was a very productive trip. Their willingness to demonstrate to us, outsiders, other countries, was really evident. And so the ways in which this e-government impacted them, they were also able to show us as well. So here was the takeaways from when we went to Estonia. One was that there was a very strong determination and willpower to succeed. What was evident was that from their government to their private sector to the public, all were determined that they were going to, as a small country which has a little over than 1 million people, they were determined that they were going to be the best and the leaders when it came to e-government platforms. So they had the willpower to do it. They also had the willingness to make the difficult decisions and sacrifices. What we really took away was, and which one of them said, was that if there was a choice between fixing a roof in the school and making sure that there were computers and internet in the school, they would put the computer and the internet in the school before they fixed the roof. They would move the computer over so it don't hit the water. But it was this willingness to sacrifice to get to where they wanted to, which was the thing that stood out to us. They also had a single message that was communicated to the public, which was very, very important because they took the time to get public buy-in to this. So it's going to take a time for us in the Bahamas to be able to convince and to speak to the public and get the public on board for what it is that we are doing. They also had a strategic plan. One of the things that was evident to us was that they didn't just go to the different ministries and set up technology in different ministries, but they started with a plan first on how the entire government structure would work. And then they went to put in place the technology that they needed. The Bahamas does not have 25 years. We do not have 25 years to get to where we need to go. So it must be rolled out in a quick fashion, and we must start now. So we must be focused, and we must have a sense of urgency when it comes to this. You will see in a few minutes where Estonia is. And if we wait 10 years to get to where Estonia is today, they will be 10 years ahead of us. So one of the things we must do is to leapfrog to get to where we need to go today. And we can do it. This administration came to office with a promise that we would transform the public sector. And we take that promise seriously to create a more efficient public sector that is going to be committed on the ease of doing business. This transformation must and will include digitization. So the government's mandate. We must transform the public sector. We must create more efficient public service. We must create a more and improve the ease of doing business. And this transformation is going to have to be achieved digitally. You may ask where we are now. I think I may have moved a little fast. You may ask where we are now. And this is important. We have right now on an online presence of 400 services. Now don't get excited by that, because all that means is you are able to get forms online. That's all that means. So you will still have to print out the form, fill out the form, and physically take the form to the office. So don't get impressed by the 400 online presence. There is 15 of the 400 are actually online services. So for example, the incorporation of a company is an online service that you can start from start to finish, and you are able to complete it, pay online, and get that service done. So only 15 out of the 400. And that tells you the opportunities that are available, because if there are 400 kinds of services that we could provide and we are only doing 15, that tells us how much more we could be doing. But it will, as I said, those things will require for us to move forward. So for other services outside of the 400, we must physically go to a department, ask for a form, fill out the form, and then submit that form physically. Vital documents are required for the most important transactions. Opening a bank account, for example, applying for a job, buying and selling a house may take anywhere from 2 weeks to upward to 6 weeks or more. That's the time that those things take for us to do. Now, according to a study conducted by the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and the Employees Confederation, a person may spend an average of 25 working days annually trying to obtain public services. That's not getting the service. That's 25 days trying to obtain the service annually. This study measured time off from work, cost of travel, and the cost of service, among other things, that concluded that digitization would be the result of cost saving for us all. So why should we change? Why should we transform, and what are the goals? The goal is to be globally competitive. That's what the goal is. And that's how we compete with the world, is by being able to provide service quicker and more efficient than others. That is the way that we attract foreign investment. That should have a direct impact on the standard of living for our people in Grand Bahama, from in the north to Inagua in the south. The goal also has to be ungirded by some values of integrity, excellence, transparency, accountability, and competitiveness. We should also want to achieve these other goals. We want to improve the way we do business and the ease of doing business. That's why we should be focused on doing what we're doing. We want to make government more transparent and accountable, and to increase trust in government. If it is transparent, then people will trust us more. If you have to call somebody on the side and give somebody a lunch tip and do certain things in order to move your matter from one file to the next file, that is not trust. It is distrust. because when there's somebody else, they get a quicker result than when I go. We need a equal playing field, that it is transparent and everyone is treated in the same manner. We must improve government services, both in processes, delivery, and reduce the time in doing business with the government to 8 days per annum, rather than 25 days per annum. We as the government love doing business with you, but the reality is there are some other things that you could be doing than doing business with the government. So we should make that service quicker and more efficient for you. Improve data collection and data analysis to assist in making informed decisions. We cannot continue by making decisions ad hocly or guessing. But if we had real-time data, for example, the Prime Minister's delivery unit, which will provide us with the real-time data from education and from health and from police, they will help us to be able to make the decisions based on the data that we need. It would also encourage a greater participation from the private sector and increase partnerships. We also need to prepare our citizens and public officers for this transformation. This, we know, will not be easy, because there is a culture that we are going to have to change. A culture that will put everybody on equal footing. A culture that the public service is no longer the important person in the deal, but the customer is the important person in the deal. We must also retrain and reskill our public servants. And my favorite, which is to implement e-cabinet. So we no longer will have to load documents and documents every week in order for us to have cabinet. There are countries that have their cabinet meetings with a laptop or a phone or an iPad, and that's how they conduct their cabinet. The Bahamas can be there. How will we do this? So the Estonia model, as you will see in a few minutes, obviously you'll see that I prepared to come after them, but the Estonia model that you will see is just a model, one model. We won't copy this model, but we will look at the Estonia model and other models to be able to shape our own Bahamian strategy. It must be Bahamian. It can't be any other country, but it must fit the Bahamas. We believe that the government should work for you. This was a concept that was mind-changing, in that we tend to have a concept that the people should work for the government. Meaning, if I need to get a service, then you must provide the government with all the things that are needed in order for the service. So for example, if I need to go to the passport office, I provide the passport office with all the information. If I need to go to national insurance, I provide national insurance with all the information. But other countries have it differently. Other countries say the government should work for you as opposed to you working for the government. So the service, the onus is on the government to get the information to work for you. So there must be a single message that assures you that the government is working for you. There must be a single online window facility through which we can transport inquiries, requests, documents, and transact business. Right now we have, I don't know, a number of different government websites. So that if you want to access services, you have to go and find out which government website you need to go. It is easier if we have one central government website that you are able to access all of the government facilities. An electronic or mobile identification card with biometrics for security, coupled with an electronic signature to allow persons to communicate and transact business with the government and to be verified from anyone or any place in the world, including their living rooms. Let me repeat that one. An electronic or mobile identification card. And this will allow us to transact, do business, sign from any place in the world with the government. So I no longer have to show up to the government office to sign a document. But I could be in New York, and once I have an electronic ID, then I can sign a document once I have my ID and information and logged in properly. Interoperability for transporting data securely between the relevant agencies. Today, just about all of our agencies have data. But there are few of those agencies that share the data between each other. So right now, if I want to do business with National Insurance, they have all my data, all my information. But if I need to go to the Ministry of Health, that same information and that same data, I must supply the Ministry of Health with that same data. So we need to be able to have things where the data is shared between the agencies. Once only concept should be enshrined in legislation. That once the government or once one government agency has information, no other government agency should ask you for that same information. It is a simple but powerful concept that if I have supplied the government with all of my information to prove that I am a citizen and to prove that I was born in the Bahamas, then I should not have to prove to another government agency that I'm a Bahamian and born in the Bahamas and have a birthday. But the onus then would shift on the government to get that information from the other government agency. Twice at least, which governs the usefulness of information in that more than one agency should be able to use the information, for example, your birth certificate. So again, it's the same principle, that if one government agency has that birth certificate, then all of the other government agencies should be able to use that information. Data ownership, in which persons themselves own the data. Is it their information? It's their information, as opposed to it being the government's information. And then we must go on a public awareness and public education really platform, because we need to ensure that the public goes along with us on the road and the track that we want to go. The last thing I want to say is, when do we start on this? And the answer is now. So the transformation has to actually begin now. And it begins with those 15 online services that we already have, fine-tuning them, also looking at implementing a credit and debit card service so that you can pay for your government services online. That's a start. And then creating the overall strategy that the government will follow in order for us to get to where we need to go. So I am asking and taking this opportunity to invite all of you to partner with us on this journey. It is not going to be easy, and it is not going to come overnight. But if we don't take the first step, we will continue to remain where we are. So, how many of you are ready for us to take the first step? Thank you very much.
Wanted to make sure I found him. And now we welcome Rio Karg. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Hello, Oliver. Hello, Oliver. Hello, Oliver. Did anybody took the picture? If anybody did, then please hit me up in Twitter or LinkedIn or anywhere else, and because I really want to have it. Okay. I'll take a clicker and hit it. Okay, great. Great, here I am. Here I am talking about the Estonian model and what we have done in last 20 years. And I have to thank Mr. Minister that he basically told half of my story. And another thing which was very pleasant to me here, that Bahama should not copy the story of Estonia. That's definitely true, because we had this story for 20 years. You don't have 20 years. We have made our mistakes, but I will talk about mistakes probably during the presentation. First and foremost, Cybernetica, our company. 21 years ago, it was the first former place for me to work. Unfortunately, I left for 18 years, but now I'm back. They are really good. We are really good. We have been doing research in cryptography and information security for 24 years. And this research has been also recognized and funded by the actual science and research organizations in EU, in Japan, including US. Everybody knows DARPA in US. These are the guys who discovered internet in somewhere hidden lab long time ago. And Cybernetica was actually the first foreign company taking part of the DARPA research program 10 years ago. But I'm not talking about that. There is so many things about Cybernetica I would like to talk. And just hit me up, and we are also present at the Cloud Carib stand there. There are some materials and stuff, and I love to talk about about Cybernetica. But let's talk about Estonia now. Estonia is a small country. It's just about 3 times of size of Bahamas, and population is about 3 times as well. And there is only about 1 million Estonians in the whole wide world. But still, we are doing good. We are number 1 in many indexes, like tax competitiveness, entrepreneurship. It's basically how easy it is to start a business. It takes like 4 minutes together with payments. But because it's digital. But all the reasons, I will talk about that later. According to all these numbers, we are doing really good. But as I said, it's only part of evolution. It's all about making small steps in the right direction. Because 20 years ago or 15 years ago, there was no thing like, let's make a great e-government, the best e-government in the world. Nobody was thinking about that. It was just about solving the problems at hand. Because Estonia was just freed from the Soviet occupation, we were able to start from an empty slate. And now, what? I will talk about first 5 years, starting this millennia. Already, before the ID card, before the data interoperability, everything, we had already things like e-tax and e-customs at 2000. mobile parking, which is still for some reason not implemented in some countries. At 2000 it was a very basic service you can do with SMS. Just park your car in the right position and it gets deducted from your phone bill. 2001, the population registry was created. And this is also the time when the X-Road or the data interoperability layer was created. And I will talk about that later on. But it was very important step to have one single population register. And afterwards, every year were coming next steps, small steps in probably right direction. Like electronic ID card at 2002, digital signature law, which is very important, so that the digital signature is as important and as valid as any handwritten signature. It was the first law of this kind created in the European Union. And the great thing is that it was not just a legal concept, but it was actually the law itself was written together with the researchers from the Cybernetica, so that during the legal text writing, it was clear how we can actually do it. Is it actually something that technology allows us to do? So, following the Digital Signature Act, it was already possible to actually implement it in practice. And this is very important because in some countries, do you know that in African country, Ghana, the Digital Signature Act was created in 2005, just in the air, without any technology around it. But the act was there. And it was great. It's a great thing to have. So, where we were, and this is where we started. In some sense, it was a great position. We had no legacy IT systems. We never had things like frame relay or mainframes or things like that, because they just didn't exist behind the Soviet occupation curtains. So we were, in some sense, we were already ahead of Western countries, because we were able to start with the new technology. And this is actually very similar what I see currently in the developing nations, that everything is already in mobile, but we are not. We are used to have computers, but who uses computers? Everybody is in mobile, so in that sense, we are already legacy. Don't do that. And what we had, government was supporting everything digital. It was at the highest political levels. And it's very pleasant for me to hear that the same kind of political attitude is here in Bahamaland as well. We had pretty high internet penetration, which was good because we started from the empty place. And last but not least is that everybody was using internet banking. I had my first internet banking account 1995 or 1994, something like that. Basically, it was, and everybody was used to do the banking online. So for general public, it was very understandable to do other services online. So if they trust the bank, then they can trust the bank with the money. They can also trust the internet to do the taxes. So this is very important, and I'm coming back to that how the general public sees things. Because in a sense, this one-time pads or one-time passport, even if they are printed for the first digital banking, it is actually electronic ID. It's not governmental, but it's good enough. It's good enough to do taxes. It's good enough to move money. But problems we had to solve in the beginning of this millennia were still there. There was very poor interconnectivity between governmental systems. The systems were deployed in different, border guard had their system, police had their system, tax office had their systems, and everybody was telling that my system is the best, make the same as mine. So there wasn't interconnectivity. You can't go to police and tell that you have to use the border guard information system. Oh, this is inferior. and all these internal processes, everybody who works in the government knows that every agency, every department, every minister, they do have different processes. They cannot use the same system because we are so different. And that's true. And technologies are diverse. You can't force the whole government. Of course, that would be a dream for some company to use the same database engine. Wow, I love it. I used to work for Oracle. Sorry if there is anybody from Oracle. and diverse technology, this is very, very important to have it. And one more thing is that in most of the governmental IT departments, the security awareness was low. And if you don't know about security, then you are afraid of it. Because it's better to close it down and say that we are okay. Don't touch it, it's secure. Even I don't know how to break it. But it's actually low awareness. And as I said, governmental registries are not just like your everyday database. Governmental registries are different because governmental difference between a database and governmental registry is purely legal. Because the ownership of data that was mentioned, or who is the custodian of data? What is the legal status of data? Because every record in governmental register, even if it's vehicle register, population register, taxes register, it has a legal meaning. It's not just a record in database. But at the same time, the governmental registries have many potential users. The registry keeper itself, other governmental registers, commercial entities. It's very natural that business registry has to be available for businesses itself. Not just going to the office and check, but it should be available online as well, at least in some means. To the citizens, one single window that was just mentioned. I don't know if I come back to that, but maybe I will. But at the same time, on the pure technical level, there are high security requirements. The registries, now as a database, it has to be available. It has to be kept confidentially, and all the changes made to the database should be traced back and audited, because the custodian of data is responsible of all those changes. And this is one of the other things that in most cases it's easier to do it on paper, because then you have trace. Right. So, but if we have a digital signature law, then every record, every change can be treated as a document with a handwritten written signature. So, this problem can be solved in digital age as well. So, what are the conventional methods? Everybody knows that. We can build fiber networks. We can have a very secure governmental network to build. We can use data transfer. We can encrypt file, because encrypting a file, it's easy. Everybody knows how to encrypt a file. Already 20 years ago, it was a commodity. Or enterprise technologies, using some kind of enterprise service bus. Or let's create a central government communication hub. That sounds nice, but it's not really according to democracy. Because in some countries, yes, I met some countries that, oh, why not? We have to create the central communication hub, because our great leader knows what kind of data everybody needs and what kind of data everybody has. But if you have a central communication hub, it means that the data custodian does not have the control what data has been transferred to a central hub. So in democratic country, you can't have it. So it all boils down to the high-level requirements that are for the digital government registers. High-level requirements in democracy is that the system has to be based on collaboration. And in government, it's kind of doable. You can at least theoretically say to other ministries that you have to share this data because you know we are the same government. But at the same time, those technical changes should not force any changes in the organization, because the organization has to be effective no matter what kind of technology is used, because technologies are coming and going. And another thing is that if you have to provide access to data, you have this legal, I mean, if you have a register on the paper or in your database, you have a legal need to expose some data about the citizen, about the business, if they are. So you have to provide the access according to regulations. But this access and access controls should be also enforced by technology, because otherwise it's no better. So let's architect this solution. Let's create this better interoperability. Or what is the better interoperability? Department of State Information Systems, there was a department that time. This department doesn't exist because the government gets reorganized. And Cybernetica was tasked to analyze the situation, to research, and provide a better solution. So that, and initially it was just about defining a solution because maybe there is a software somewhere which can do it. Apparently, during these analyses and research and comparing, piloting different technology, it was clear that this kind of technology doesn't exist. We had to create something. And the first implementation, as I said, it was not about saving the whole e-government or the whole world. It was just solving the problem with the data population register, border guard, police, and I guess it was business register. So only a few very important points that the departments agreed that we can use the same population register data, and it's good. So we need to have some kind of system. And this is how the first version of the X-Road was created, end of 2001. And just to remind how quick the things were moving back then, was that the first lines of the code were written in July by an intern who is currently the main chief architect of our UXP product. And it was July 2001. And the system went live in December 2001. Those were the times. And now, this is where we are. Does this picture make any sense to anybody? No. This is actually the picture of how Estonian information system looks like. All these dots here are different information systems, different organizations that are exchanging data. The bigger dots, they are only bigger because they have more connections to be visible. So one can assume that some of them, the most connected one, is probably population register, or business register, or court system. And you see on the left corner there is a somehow clustered system. It seems that they do all the talking between each other. It's e-health. Because all the hospitals, all the family doctors, all the insurances, they mainly talk to each other. Which means that since the system is distributed, then no other member in the field doesn't care what all these hospitals are talking all the time to each other, sending the files and x-rays and pictures and all the important stuff, whatever doctors do, to keep us healthy. And every line here, it depicts a legal relationship between two organizations, between two databases. And these relationships are mutual, bilateral contracts. So all these lines here are business-sensitive, mutual contract between two entities exchanging data. And only between those. There is no state information system or ministry overlooking it. The only parties taking part of the communications are those that are connected by line. So, facts and figures. What the X-Road does, what has been done. Soon it will be 17 years. That's, it's been active. It's been going through the several generations. I'm not talking into that because then I have to talk a lot more about Cybernetica because we did it for the government. Over these years, there has been over 3 billion transactions, and the number of transactions is growing every year. This year it will be probably much higher because this year there was implemented a smart grid solution that uses the same data exchange for security. And obviously in the smart grid, there is a lot of data exchanging places. And now there is over 1,200 services, about 1,000 information systems. And that's basically it. We cannot grow because everybody is pretty much connected. We are so small. So this is another reason why we in the Cybernetica needed to develop the new system, the commercial system that we can sell to other countries because we have done everything in Estonia. We can't get bigger. Even our military is not that big that we can have some land from Latvia or Finland or some small islands connect. No, we can't do that. Even though we have expanded the same X-Road to Finland, to our neighboring country. And we are doing it in different parts of the world, but let's not go there. Another. I don't want to talk about Cybernetica, but more about Estonia. So, the lessons. And this is basically the same very talk that the Honorable Minister was telling about. You have to have a simple goal. Let it be single window. Let it be a portal. Something that is presentable. Something that general public sees as an important and good thing to have. Because even though it's not the most important role for the X-Road or the data interoperability, but it has to be visible. And at the same time, there must be also education for the general public and organizations that you are not taking the data away. It's all about data exchange, not getting the data away from where it belongs. And another thing, start with the relevant registries and applications, as it has been told 20 minutes ago on the same stage. Thank you for that. I just can move ahead from that because it already has been said with much nicer slides. I will tell about the picture that wasn't on the previous slides. And this is basically how I personally see actually, I have to thank my wife for that, because she said that you have to make something that's more visible. And the government registers, it's like foundation. It's a foundation where all the governmental data lies. And to use that, you need two things. You need interoperability, and you need electronic ID. And this goes all across the government, all across the country, all across the different applications, like e-health. E-health is not just hospitals exchanging data. They also need to have access to the businesses. They need to have access to the population register, all the whole e-prescription thing that we do have, and all these other miracles that I can talk about. I don't understand it, because the e-health is not my field. We are just making it secure. But the e-health, it's great. You know, you can phone your family doctor and say that, okay, I need this medicine again, because, you know, it has been in my record for several times. And she just puts something in the computers. I take my ID card, I go to the pharmacy and tell me, I should have a digital prescription here. And I got my medicine. It's so great. E-police. E-police. One simple, why a police officer needs to access the different register. When a police car stops me at the road, it's not like cars are talking to each other, which was presented earlier here. It's the actual policeman who is in Estonian police. According from my plate, he got the information, who's the owner of the car, where this owner lives, what's the status of his insurance, is there any chance that owner can have a firearm? All these data, including my picture, will be on his screen already, coming from actual data sources. So education, e-school, e-customs, they all use the same foundation. And only at the right side, there is Citizen Portal, which is something that can be seen, and this is actually something that people can relate, because data interoperability, this is not a fancy thing. You can't see it. Even in Estonia, if I go and tell somebody about X road, if this somebody is not my colleague, then they will point to Estonian portal, Citizen Portal, because this is the only manifestation, and very important one. But this has been told already. Basic register as a foundation. Where to start? The register of the identification documents, the citizen register, the vehicle register. All these are very basic things. Business register, buildings register, and land cadastre. So if you have all these, and you can connect all these, then you can already build a lot of great applications. And all that is possible only because you have this universal data exchange. And the developers, they don't have to think about where is the data, what's the database, what's the location, they just know that there is a service, I can access it, use it. And the applications that use this fundamental need, they are on another layer. They don't think about registers. They think about actual knowing what's the business process, how to build it, how to do it. Because some software companies, they do know the e-health. They do know the court system. They can concentrate on creating awesome applications from their demands, mobile application, whatever. Because, and they don't want to, and they don't need to think about security, because security is already given. All the data that moves on that graph, on that point-to-point connections, all this data is encrypted. All this data is digitally signed. all these data can be used in the court of law. So it gives a lot of possibility for application developers who know the field. So, trying to get to the end, closing to the end, is that it's also something that has been said already. Security is not just building a strongholds of data, which is great thing, and there are great places where to keep this data, how to define the access, things like that. This is what the data centers are for. Should I say Cloud Carib here? Or not? Okay. No, but more important is that there are common public register keeping guidelines which apply to these custodians. That if you have a governmental data register to keep, then you have to provide access to others through the common interoperability framework, and no other way. And the next one is once only policy for all personal data, which was already mentioned in the previous speech as well, that if I have given my data out to the government, then the government should get it where it is. If I have said that if I have submitted through the citizen portal that my legal address is where I live, then no police officer or no tax accountant can ask from me the same information again, because they have to retrieve it from the population register. If I own the business, then they can check it from the business register online. If I can represent the business, the notary can check it 2 minutes before I'm signing the lease, for example. So, and that's great. That makes everything so smooth. And just starting to close it here, where to go next from the integration. And this is where we are right now in Estonia, and this is where you can start with, is to where to go next, where to build these next level services, considering that the governmental data is already accessible. The data is already secured. This is already given. And the access is controlled. This is already given. And the whole open data has the whole next level, because it gets retrieved from the actual source. It's not like somebody's uploading some information and declaring, this is open data for you. Take it for next 2 years. In next year, we will have another version of open data. And so it's so great. It's possible to build open data which is actually relevant, which is actually real time. And access to open data is also controlled. Because I would love to use open data as my personal data, all the data that government has about me. Maybe I want to run data mining on that. Maybe I would like to train my AI on that. So there is so many applications and forward thinking that the commercial applications, combining the information that's available from the government or from the from the commercial entities, like department stores, like insurance companies. It's possible to create all kinds of great new applications with the new interfaces. Because those guys who care about security, we are not good at the interfaces. The cool guys, those guys do the interfaces. And proactive services. This is something that your country has to start with. When the baby is born, the governmental system knows it. So the social security can send an email to parents. Oh, you have this baby. Maybe you want to have some help. Did you already have your family doctor? Are you already registered? Have you named the baby? maybe naming the baby, actually naming the baby, this is good one, because you assign, how to say, you name a baby, yeah. You get the baby, when it's born, it gets a governmental ID, but this is just a number, but you don't call a number, your baby a number. It's a long one, 11 digits. and baby doesn't understand it. So you need something that's more easier to spell out. Then you go to internet, and governmental portal, they already know that you have this baby, you are the mother because you said it in the hospital. Then maybe you want to name your baby. So I write the baby name down, I will digitally sign it, but then I have to wait that the mother has to sign it as well. So we have to agree with my wife how to name a baby and sign it together. So I was signing it, she was signing it later on, and officially there was no paper trail. There's no paper birth certificate. And this is where the real beauty is. And this is how the better decisions are being made. And what's the governance? And what's the government? The whole reason to have a government is to have better decisions. Because this is what makes all of us happier, right? Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Let's give Mr. Kirk another round of applause. And we want to thank our Prime Minister, the Honorable Hubert Ingram, the Honorable Hubert Minnis, and I do apologize sincerely, for being with us this afternoon. We know that his agenda is full. Dr. Minnis is going to leave us to attend to some other business, and we thank you, sir, for your presence all day. We know that this whole ICT arena is something that's very critical, very important, very key to your agenda. And we do know that we have the assurance that as we move forward, we have your support as you provide excellent leadership and guidance as we move forward in creating the space for us to ensure that we are able to say that we are a smart Bahamas. Thank you so very much. We now continue with our presentations, and coming next to speak to us is Andre Andrioli, who is the Senior Director of Solution Engineering Office of the CTO, and this presentation sponsored by VMware, the future in the cloud. Let's welcome Mr. Andre Andrioli.
Hello? I think you can. Can't you? Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm actually surprised we have so many people with this beautiful sun outside. I do have the honor of leading the engineering group, software engineering group of VMware for the Caribbean and Latin America, and I'm also part of the office of the CTO of this company. If you are alive and still breathing, can you please raise your hand? Just make sure. Okay, got you, thank you. Got you, live ones, all right. So, many of you I don't know, probably don't know VMware. We were one of the largest software companies in the world, one of the top 5 actually. And we are quite well known in the Silicon Valley as being very innovative. And I'm going to be switching gears a bit on what you saw so far, because I saw today a lot of important technology that is going to be key to the future. I have no question about that. But I think you saw a lot of hardware technologies involved. And I'm going to be switching gears to talk a bit about the software that goes over this. That's where the innovation is nowadays. Imagine yourself if all those students learning on those programs that you're creating here start to create things. Many of those things are going to be systems, software. Imagine if you want to copy some of the success that Estonia had that we just saw. Those are going to be systems, right? Software most of the time. And if you're still confused about the software and hardware thing, hardware is the ones you can kick, while software is the one you can just curse, because you can't kick anything. You can't kick software, right? It's a pretty old joke by now. Okay, so it is about being part of a social digital society, which is also known as let's talk about your career, because believe me, it's going to touch all of us. Work you for the government or not, be you in the Bahamas or not, it's going to be part of your career conversation as well for sure. What you know about software, what you don't know. Before anything else, you probably realize by now I have a different accent from the previous speakers. That's why, because I'm a proud Brazilian. And first time in the islands, I'm blown away by what you have here. You should be very proud of the islands you have. Whoa. I'm definitely coming back, that's for sure. So let me start by going far, far away in a very remote place, not that sunny as here, called Copenhagen. And why the hell is this guy in Bahamas talking about Copenhagen? Because by the way, this is not a presentation about containers. As you see here already, the container thing, no, that's not the thing, right? Container is a big thing in software. We'll talk about it a bit, but that's not the main thing. June last year, one employee for that company, which is the largest logistics company in the world, Maersk, you see their boats everywhere, right? With their containers going back and forth across the globe. Right, they are the largest company in the world doing this. And one of their employees get to their headquarters, which is the photo you see there. Beautiful headquarters they have. And he gets to his computer. Instead of the regular Windows logon, he says this. Did you ever see one of those? And he goes, oh, did you? Okay, that's not good. Usually, that's what you see when one of those ransomware guys got to your computer and encrypted your hard drive, and you got to click there and pay some Bitcoin for them, otherwise you'll never see your data again. But that's not the case. Because once he was in IT actually, so once he got his head up and started to look around, every other employee was checking the same thing. And then they go like, maybe there's just ransomware. We paid like, I don't know, $100, $300, and we got our PCs back, right? Not this time. Some of them actually paid. No data back. Why? This guy's always about the money? Not this time. In fact, this company, the largest logistics companies in the world, Maersk, got stuck and stopped operating to the point where some of the main ports in the world, this is New Jersey, stopped working, closed for several days, more than 3 days. Those guys lost a lot of money, but they were not alone. In fact, you know what happened? This is never going to be confirmed by anybody, but the main suspicions that most of the investigators have right now, almost, but again, never going to be concluded, is that some country fighting Ukraine threw a digital cyber bomb in Ukraine to stop their government from working. Erased all the data to the point where Ukraine stopped. The country stopped working. I mean, this is a supermarket, stopped working, everything stopped working. Because they invaded all the systems at the same time and stopped a whole country from working, including the government. Databases, all these databases that Korg here is showing us, imagine all them being raised and stopping our country from working. That's one of the risks we have on the digital government that we need to be aware and think about as well. You know what also happened? This bomb was so powerful, this cyber terrorist bomb, that companies all over the world have been affected. The White House of the US estimates that over $10 billion were actually in damages all over the place. Companies, private companies doing chocolate in the UK were affected. Guys doing FedEx in the US were been affected. Oil companies from Russia itself have been affected. So go like, is this what, a nightmare? What the hell is this, right? Is this real? Yes, it's real. That's the world we live in now, right? The digital world. You might have seen this picture before. This is the Annunciation of the Pope at the Vatican in 2005. And down below, you see the last Pope we have, 2013. Is that any different in the picture you can see? There you go. As we are becoming a digital society, it's natural that we will be moving. It's an unstoppable force. Our governments, our lives are going to be more digital than before. As we're moving everything we do, including our economies, crime is going to come together. It is already happening, okay? But what we are seeing actually is not just about crime. This is one of the aspects. What I'm talking about here is about several superpowers we're seeing in front of us. We call them the tech superpowers. Like back in the day when I was a kid, a superpower was a country, right? A country with missiles usually. Nowadays, we are talking about tech superpowers, right? Several of those, all those that you see on the screen right here, right? Why do we call them tech superpowers? Because they are in fact superpowers, as you can see. Let's start with cloud. We hear cloud all the time to the point where we don't even care anymore. Cloud, cloud, cloud. What the hell is cloud, right? Today, right today, a kid here in Freeport with a good credit card can rent for a few hours the most powerful computer ever built by mankind. That's not the case when I was a kid. I'm a 42-year-old. That's not the case when I was a kid. Now, they can access real easy because all this computing power is in the cloud. You can easily rent this power and use to you. Another thing they can do, mankind, half of the population of this little planet we are on, already have mobile phones with consistent internet access. Half the planet. Which means if you have an idea and start something here in Bahamas today, you can reach half the planet. Basically, these superpowers are blurring the lines between countries. That's what's happening right now. That's what you should be taking advantage of. This is why I see that your government is very smart about doing all this. And again, not just that, all this cloud and all these mobile phones working around are giving us finally artificial intelligence that works. The company I work for, VMware, our CEO is one of the most respectable CEOs at the Silicon Valley, and he was a big guy at Intel for 30 years, right? And he was telling us the other day that in 1986, he was working with the Intel chips that they were about to launch. He was the main architect of the chip. And then his marketing manager comes running into his office. Pat, we need to make this chip a great artificial intelligence chip. 1986. And they built some features on the chip that could actually make some artificial intelligence. He tells us, you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. No one, you ever heard about artificial intelligence 30 years ago? It's just like a joke, pretty much, right? Nowadays, it is real. You know why? Because now we have all these phones working all around, and all this data that we're collecting out of them, storing them in the cloud in a cheap way that we can actually process this data. Now we have the power to make all this data, train those artificial intelligence algorithms to the point where they are actually useful to us in a cheap way. Not that you have to be the most money-full company in the world to be doing something with this, right? There's one more power here, which is the edge, what's happening at the IoT that we spoke so much at this event, right? We already spoke about the price of the sensors that went down. You know what's happening with all this? We are finding many, many new use cases to apply this artificial intelligence that we have, and more places that are sending us more data that we are now storing in the cloud, right? And then able to give more things to do with these mobile devices we have. In fact, what we're seeing is this, exactly this. These superpowers, they reinforce each other. I have more power in the cloud, then I can serve more services to these mobile devices all around, then I get more data from those devices that is stored in the cloud, then I can train better machine intelligence algorithms, right? Then I can create more use cases for what's on the edge, on the IoT, might be in the shipping vessel coming through your ports, might be on your cell phone as a citizen, right? Might be, I don't know, a device you're using for a company to do something. Maybe like the energy company was showing here, right? All those cases are reinforcing each other, and that's pretty damn important because this is changing the way we do things. right? So this is a pretty good use case. Like helmets used to be something you put in your head just to protect your head, right? Not anymore. This is actual helmet from a company that basically gives you superpowers. You can see through things. You can be inside the factory and look at something, you know, oh, don't touch it because the temperature is high. Or they can actually tell you instructions on screen, this is how you do this, right? And all those things that before were not possible. Were making us more productive. In fact, so much more productive that this is actually becoming an evolution that we need to be aware of, because the difference is huge now. Does anybody know who this gentleman is? Also from the Commonwealth, maybe, remember? Charles Darwin? This is what he told us about. Because when I think about evolutions happening, I always think about this gentleman here. So I think you should take advantage of this here at the Bahamas. It's not about just being the most powerful nation or the most intelligent, etc. It's being more flexible, right? And this is something you can do. Why not, right? In fact, the fact that you are not so big as an elephant is actually an advantage in this brand new world that we have in front of us now. So we also have data from different universities. This was a study that showcased on Wall Street Journal last December, showing that the productivity for those companies, enterprises, that invest in innovation with IT, specifically with IT innovation, also known as software, if you didn't get it, are being so much more productive than their competitors that it's not even a game anymore. Right? What am I saying? We have studies showing that companies that invest in IT innovation are so much more productive that they're beating away their competitors. So either you get good at that or you're not going to be here tomorrow. It's not a maybe. It's a given. Right? And is Andre staying too much, perhaps? This is one of our colleagues. He's working for Ford IT. Ford is one of our customers, the big car automaker, the US one. And guess what they did? They did an innovation contest globally for all their employees. Anybody in a factory, in an office could give an innovation idea. And they come up with 800 people submitting 200 ideas. There's one thing in common about all those ideas. You know what that is? All of them needed IT systems to support it. You get what I'm telling you? If you don't have the right systems to support your innovation, it's going to be a brake holding you, an anchor that you don't need, holding your whole country, your business, your careers sometimes. This is what I want to address, right? This is actually a picture, actually it's a bad picture to show at the moment that California is going through all these fires, but this picture to me shows what happens at many organizations, many governments, and many companies today. They are just seeing all these changes happening and doing the same thing they always did. Maybe playing golf. Not a bad idea, right? But with the fires, not so much. Right? So this is the call I'm doing here. Whenever I talk about those revolutions and things and etc., VMware, the company I work for, we are well known for being innovative and fast in doing things. We are an software engineering company. We are pretty bad at marketing. This is what maybe some of you didn't hear about us before, but we know what we do, right? And whenever you look at those revolutions happening, I always like to start looking at people. So what do people see out of all this? What if we go and implement a digital government in Bahamas and change the way we do business because we're more digital than other competitors that we might have? What changed for them? What will they see? What will these people see in front of them? You may build everything you need around it, but they will see probably systems, applications in front of them. It doesn't have to be an app on your phone. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is probably going to be exposed to people or your citizens as applications, right? But if you are building systems and applications or the infrastructure to support them as for decades, as I have been, you know that the applications are actually just the tip of this iceberg. Because the infrastructure you need to support those, That's where the cost comes many times. The networks I need to build to support those things, the computing power to build those things, all this data, what am I going to store all this data? Oh, but maybe I can have a hurricane, so I need to do several copies of that data across different islands. That costs a lot of money. So all that actually, right today, not in the future, runs in an infrastructure that you already have. When I came to the airport that you have here and passed it through a system that does the security at the airport, and many of the systems that you interact every day in the government, or maybe your bank, your telecom company, all those systems run into infrastructures they built. How do they look? If they are as old as I am, they're probably going to look like mainframes back in the 70s. That's what we started, many companies. After that, guess what's this? The x86 revolution. That's when Intel processors were so much cheaper and everything started to go with risks and Intel computers, right? And AMD, right, back in the day. So we saw lots of racks everywhere with storage systems, network systems, computer systems. You know what happened next? We came in. You know what we did? We got famous by creating something called virtualization. And it's damn freaking simple. It's just a software layer that I put over all this iron that I have. And now it's not just one-to-one. Now I can pick this one server and break it in 1,000 if I want. They are all virtual servers, or virtual storages, or virtual routers of network, or virtual switches of network, et cetera, which means they are much cheaper, much, much cheaper, to the point where a lot of people still hate us because we make you spend much less money to do the same things, right? But the world didn't stop in 2000, did it? We kept it going, right? What did we start here about 2010? The clouds, everything now is in the cloud. It's a magical place. I just move things and everything's going to be great. No, not true, right? But there are so many efficiencies that we should take advantage of in the cloud. In fact, the world didn't stop in 2010, did it? When you look at what's happening in IT nowadays, and all the systems being built, and all this innovation, things like Amazon, Google, et cetera, are doing, these are all modern applications that are built using what we call microservices. It's an actual architecture. We built, did you see that screen that Rio had here? See a lot of connections between systems, because every system has very small services they provide, and they're all interconnected. That's how modern applications works nowadays. It's not like when I started building systems, where we build a whole big system that only runs in this piece of iron, and that's it. Now it's spread out across different places. That's how modern applications work nowadays. In fact, if you look at all those cool new things teams are using nowadays, these applications they use, they're actually spread all over the place. They have things that are running in a new cloud, maybe some things are in a very old system inside their own data center, like your government already have. No company or government I speak to, and believe me, I speak to a lot of different governments and companies all over Latin America and the Caribbean and in the US and in Canada and so forth. They usually have, there's all the systems that are usually a lot of this brand new cool stuff connected to this very old, not so fun stuff, right? Because all this data that's what they are stored, etc. Right? So back in the 90s, this guy from Sun Microsystems got very famous by saying internet was not even there. The network is the computer. He got pretty famous about it, John Gage. Then nowadays, our CEO, Pat Gelsinger, is telling us the applications today, the modern ones, are actually a network. And they do behave like a network, because applications nowadays are spread over. If you're building a modern application that might be maybe the next government system for the Bahamas, maybe there's going to be consuming services from Amazon, that talk to something from Google, that store data in your own data center, that store things in Cloud Carib, and all those systems are talking to each other to make this mesh of services that provide what you need. That's how modern applications look like. Well, if that's the case, and believe me, I'm not going to bother you too much, otherwise I would lose my flight back home. And then my wife's going to kill me because I do need to be home tomorrow. It's a long flight to Brazil, but let's take a look at the world we have in front of us today, the full world of IT that we have in front of us, right? Let's try to summarize that. Clarity is power. So let's try to have some clarity what we're going to face. If you are like anybody else in this planet, you're probably going to be having either at your own company or at the own government entity you work for, you're going to have the traditional applications, the applications you always had. The ones you have today already running in your company or in your government entity. You're also going to have lots of new things that you're going to be building right now. Maybe these new modern applications I was showing you. Okay? You're also going to be using applications you don't even know or care about because they are at what we call as-a-service applications. The HR system I use at VMware is a pretty good example. I just use it on my phone or on my browser. I don't know where that is stored. I don't know what it's made of. I just use it and it works and I don't care. It's the way we like it. And it's probably going to be a mix of that you're going to have. Okay? Well, how do we interact with those systems? Well, we use the same devices we always use, which is like a big fauna nowadays, like mobile devices, wearables, computers that we always used. But not only that, because some of those users of those applications, as we saw today, don't have fingers, don't have eyes. They are just devices. They might be a sensor in a chip coming through your port. It might be a mobile application on your phone, which is collecting data from you, telling that he's many hours sitting today at that summit of technology, etc., and sending that someplace in the cloud. That's what you're going to be seeing, right? Well, if I interact with those systems using all these devices, and those are the systems I'm going to be using, where do they live? Where do they run? Because software can be magical and beautiful, but they need the hardware to run. Otherwise, they don't run, okay? So where do they run? Well, they probably run either in your own data centers for the government, I'm sure, or your company. I'm sure you have them today. Those racks that I showed you, right, with systems on it, storage systems, networking systems, computing systems that you have. We're also going to have some of those living in public clouds, right? Maybe Amazon's, maybe Cloud Korean, maybe something else. You're also going to have some systems running at what we call the edge. Maybe it's the branch of your bank. Maybe it's a ship. Maybe it's a store that you enter. Maybe it's the restaurant you go to every day. Maybe it's your mobile phone. That's what we call the edge. That's usually where the IoT devices are. The edge might be a generator from the power company that you saw. Might be what they are putting in your home to be recording what you're spending on the energy, etc. Right? All this is interconnected by a telco network that is also being virtualized, by the way. Okay? And there's a big network connecting all this. Look, I've been building systems for more than 20 years, and the most important line you need to take care of when you're building all this, can you guess? This one right here. That's where we put virtualization technology. What is virtualization? Just a software layer between the iron and your applications in your data. Why is this important? Because if you don't have it, you depend on the hardware, and your life is pretty hard. And everything, you can't slice the hardware any longer, so you have to buy several copies of the hardware all the time, and the storage systems and the networks. Then your life starts to get really, really complicated and cost you a lot of money, right? And also, if you don't have that line pretty strong, every developer building a new application for the Bahamas is going to have to think about the whole infrastructure that's going to be supporting that application. And you don't need that. I need them to be thinking just about the application they want to deliver, not about the infrastructure going to support it. Did you see Mr. Kirk here talking about the Estonian model? They don't have to think about the security, about the infrastructure. They just talk to the service and do. That's what we want. That's how it's done. Okay? That's the cheapest way to do it. So, on all that, that's what the new world we see in front of us. And that's exactly where VMware can help you. Actually, we've been helping several entities already here to do the only thing we do at VMware, which is digital foundation for business. That's the only thing we've been doing forever, doing this layer of virtualization that makes so you can innovate there whenever you want to do and don't have to think about all this infrastructure. Okay? You can use whatever you want. In fact, one more thing we do that is damn freaking important, as you saw in the example I gave you, that make everybody shake about the cyber bomb, which is add security to this. So we can run any application. I don't care if it's as a service, a modern, old school, traditional, I just run it, right? And I can put this on any cloud, and I don't care if it's on your own data center or in Cloud Carib or in Amazon. I don't care. That's what you want. I don't care about this. Just consume it, right? And I can deliver that to any device with security. All this infrastructure, this digital foundation has security in it, in the way it's taught. Otherwise, if I don't have this in the infrastructure, guess what? Depend on the guys building the applications, be very smart about it, about applications. They will be, they must be, but you gotta make your part as well, which is build security from the foundation, on the digital foundation of your country, of your company. Otherwise, you might be one of those affected by that bomb. So let me focus here a bit, because this is one of the parts where a lot of the money go, the infrastructure that supports what you do. Many, many businesses and governments right now are deciding, should I invest in my own data centers? Should I put things on a cloud? We are here to help you do not care about that, right? That's the value that my company can provide to you, which is basically, we have all reasons to do things at home. Maybe it's because of data sovereignty. You don't want your data of your citizens floating around. Maybe it's because something else. But maybe you have developers that want to build systems that are really innovative and they just want to consume services from some cloud they saw around. Let them do it. We are here to tell you that you can build a hybrid cloud that can support your business or your government, right, in a way that can support what your applications need. You're going to be having lots and lots of applications. Each of those applications are going to consume a lot of resources. Compute, storage, networking, they need security. What we do virtualization, what you already did, in fact, here at the Bahamas with our technology, is aggregate all the compute capacity that you have in a big pool of capacity. Imagine doing the same with storage, and exactly the same with our network capacity and security services that you need to run these networks, right? That's exactly what our virtualization technology allows you to do. I don't care what hardware that is. I can buy the cheapest one of this week, but I have this layer of software that makes it invisible to me, right? Then I have management systems that can see all those layers and understand the applications that are running over it to give me a real smart way, cheapest way. Now you can see why it's cheaper to run things virtualized, because it's much more resource effective in the way it uses the resources, right? It's not just I have to buy all this infrastructure for this thing, now this whole infrastructure for this other thing, and so forth and so forth. Every time I have a new idea, let's buy new infrastructure or maybe consume more from the cloud, because cloud is basically, you're not buying the car, we're renting it, that's all. Okay? So I could speak to you about how we virtualize all those things, but honestly, I think it's going to be just boring you. What I want to show you is that you can use both in-house and outside in a very effective way. I could also mention that same thing I just showed you as what we have running at AWS, for instance, as one of the global players running our technology, but you don't have to. Why leave the islands? If Cloud Carib already built everything that I just showed to you, running in your islands, across the board, as you can see, over our technology. We saw the morning, we have different hardwares. Again, I don't care which hardware you decide to use, because our technology makes it transparent to you, so you don't have to think about it, right? So we have more freedom to use our money the way you want, right? So why should you care? Because it does cost less. That's already proven in your own experiences, but we can come in and show you how that works. Usually at least 40% cheaper than running things in the old way of doing this without virtualization. Also, I should also mention, because I mentioned security at the beginning of this conversation, that there is a big problem of the way of building things. Imagine now that Bahamas government start to build all those things in-house, right? And they start building things the way we used to do things. Most companies and governments build things in the wrong model, which is the model on the screen right now. Can you see it? It's the castle model, the wall castle model. Might have worked in Scotland back in the day, but look at today. What you usually have as a data center for your government or your company is a big walled city with all these network paths connecting all these servers and databases that do things for you, right? And a big wall, and just one big gate with a lot of guards on it. That's usually how data centers are built, right? Guess what? It's when you are attacked by those, as those guys in Ukraine have been, what happens is an asymmetrical battle. 1,000 arrows are thrown at you, and you have to stop all of them. Just one getting in is enough to make your life miserable. Because once the hackers get in, or those attackers get in, they will spread across. We call it lateral movement. That's how we do. Once they enter, they start to move laterally and copy themselves around. So they have enough coverage of your systems. They start to extract data. That usually takes at least 6 months. That's how usually they do those things, right? So an attack like you saw for Ukraine, that took at least a year in preparation. So they kind of finally push the button and throw the bomb. So let me show how virtualization technology protects you from that. Forget all this technical data, boring here. Let's focus here. Do you see the green planet? That's your surface of attack. That's the area. Me as a hacker, I'm looking at your company, at your business, at the Bahamas government perhaps, and I'm seeing all these options of attack. The small red dot you see here is the area of attack after virtualization virtualization software is used to protect your network. That's exactly what they didn't have back in the day. That's exactly what Myers didn't have in their systems running when they have it there. Right? So it's not that you use virtualization are going to be safe forever. Forget it. That's not going to happen. Let's not lie to ourselves. But you're going to be much, much more harder to attack. Okay? This is especially important nowadays because our castle doesn't have walls any longer. We have data centers that use things in the cloud that are going to be talking to devices, going to be everywhere. So your network is not just your walled castle any longer. You have systems that talk to everything. Maybe your citizens have applications on their phones that are talking and sending data to your government data centers. So maybe I'm the lousy user that picks my phone and download the worst, full of hacks, application, gaming, etc. on my phone. On the same phone I have maybe data here that is connecting to your data center with government services. Do you see the risk? It's a big risk, so you need to mitigate those risks. That's what we're offering to you. So what can I run in those, what are kind of applications I can run? All kinds of applications can be run in those kind of clouds, right, with VMware, either in your own data centers, on a public cloud. Let me give you some examples which are pretty real. If you want to run, say, Amazon RDS, which is Amazon database that is basically competition to Oracle, you can run that in your own data center using virtualization technology, right? In fact, I'm not telling you, you can run any kind of database. You can run Oracle on your platform, fantastic. You want to cut your cost and run other databases? Easy, go with VMware, you can do that. Your developers want to build real modern applications using Kubernetes and containers, which are a technology we use to package applications nowadays, quite popular. Guess what? We have the technology to run that in your own systems, right? So again, you can use clouds inside, outside. I can consume things from Cloud Carib, our partner here, right? And I just don't care. I just consume the data and pay for what I'm consuming, right? I want to run the most innovative open source blockchain, maybe one from VMware that we put on open source recently, quite efficient. So I'm giving this software to you. You can run that on our platform. Again, you don't care what kind of hardware, if it is in the cloud, if it's inside. You just can move things around. You just don't care, right? So I started asking about the people. So what about the people? We thought about infrastructure. So what about the people? Applications as well. But if I look at these devices, again, that you saw here, what we see happening at the edge where the people live is that the desktops that they usually used, some of those are moving to the cloud, right? You see more and more. Some of those are continuing to use laptops. I don't think those are going away. They're sticking. But many of those office users are just moving those things, the windows they have, etc., to the cloud. Another thing also happening is with the mobile phones. They are getting smarter and smarter with the services we are providing. And also machine learning is being applied to the way we manage those systems, right? Same way that we are using now more and more devices as the ones that we've described here many times. I want to go there again. But this is what's going to be needed to keep your citizens and employees engaged in what they are doing, right? Otherwise, you're running, as Rio would say, Soviet-era systems that you don't want anymore, right? Those are how modern systems work. Your users and citizens, they have this Google-like experiences in daily life. They don't want to use your systems and see those black screens of something I have to type. They hate it. Don't make they hate you. Free them, right? So we do all have the systems to expand the applications you're building all the way down to the hands of those users, not just hands with fingers and eyes, but also everywhere. Because I saw here today many, many ideas that are going to put many sensors and devices that are going to be collecting data everywhere across your islands. Maybe in your pocket, in your phone, right? So those IoT devices are going to be connecting to your systems, okay? And bringing data in. And I'm talking about all this because we've been well known in the industry for being very innovative and ways we create ways for you to innovate so you don't have to think about infrastructure. But also, this is why actually we've been chosen by Fortune recently by one of the companies that really changed the world, because one of the things our technology do for you is they lower your energy bill to run all those systems by around usually 80% down. So we had a major impact on your energy bill to run all those systems. If you're not virtualized, you need much more computers than you need if it's virtualized. But ultimately, if you think about all the superpowers of technology I was been talking here about, they are technology that can be used for anything. And we at VMware, we want to make positive impact in every community we operate on, and we invest heavily on that. Look, it's the same thing as when Gutenberg created the press, right? You can print a Bible, you can print a manual to make bombs. So technologies we're seeing right now, all this digital innovation we're seeing that is affecting our lives and governments, it's not just bad, just because of the cyber bomb I showed you about. It's on us, responsibility of using those systems to make these technologies force for good. That's what we want to do here, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Andrioli. We want just to encourage you to be back in the morning, bright and early. We have a full program planned for you. We will kick off with a presentation, The Future Is Now, by Cantier Stubbs from BTVI. And our keynote presentation, The Future, Experience the Intelligent Enterprise, by Eugene Winchell. And so we do invite you to come back out in the morning. The presentations that you have heard today and for the remainder of the week will be available online. We will bring you the instructions and direct information as to exactly how you may download. I see some head nodding, so I know persons will be interested in accessing some of the very valuable presentations. We thank you for your attentiveness and your participation and attendance to the first day of the second summit, the Grand Bahama Technology Summit. We wish you a good afternoon, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Thank you.